All right, welcome, awesome leaders, to day 18. Building a team, not just any team, but a team that inspires and a team that absolutely reeks of motivation and effectiveness. Now, funnily enough, that team will be reflective of everything that you stand for. So, as previously discussed, leadership is 75% to do with relationships, and the strength of those relationships dictates how determined, how motivated, and subsequently how influential you are on that team. So you can look at those relationships and the team that you build from an overall standpoint, that the way in which you build these relationships dictates the quality of your overall leadership. You can only be so effective to a point as a leader. You can only be so effective to a point where if the relationships aren't there, then no matter how good a leader you are or perceive yourself to be, you won't be able to get any more effective, because it is all about people and building a strong sense of team and incorporating everyone into that team as well. So the promise for today is that at the conclusion of today's lesson, you'll have identified the key influences in your workplace, and you'll have begun the process of building a reliable and motivating team of colleagues around you to support you on your leadership journey, because you're only as good as the people around you. If you want to lead, you need to inspire and you need to engage with the people around you. Know what those people's strengths are, utilize those strengths, but ultimately incorporating everyone into that circle as well, building that strong sense of team unity. If you don't do this, well, you won't have any support, and no support equals no leadership. You won't be able to influence, and you'll be alienated from everyone else. The moment that sense of team disharmony comes about and you're alienated from your team as their leader, then you lose all your ability to influence and effectively engage with them. So the missing ingredient, or the key ingredient in becoming a leader, is building a strong team and working on those relationships. If you're not doing this, it's like you're hosting a party and there's no one that shows up. You've gone to all this effort, just like in the screen on the screenshot here. You've gone all this effort making the food, you've got the cake, you've prepared dinner for everyone, but there are no guests. Because you don't have any support. You're putting on all the bells and whistles. You've got this leadership attribute, you've got that leadership attribute. It's all there on display, but no one's coming, no one's following you, because you haven't built up that relationship and that strong sense of team. When you do build up that team, everyone's pulling with you, just like in a tug of war. Everyone's behind you and pulling in the same direction. You build the ability to influence. You build a strong support network, and you subsequently build a more motivated, inspired team, and yourself. You'll be more motivated, inspired as a leader. And this, across the board, elevates company culture. And the best part is that you're responsible for this. This is your work. This is your handiwork in effect. So it very much is like that tug of war. When everyone's pulling in the right direction, you can begin to achieve so many more things. And not only more things, but in more efficiency and a quicker period of time. So why is it important? Why is it important for you to build a strong work team? I want you to take a moment to write that down and circle it, post it in the Facebook group. The more you realize the importance of this, the greater you'll take on board the information and apply it to the nth degree. Leadership equals relationships and team. Remember, a leader can't just lead anything, can't lead nothing. Needs someone, something, people behind you. So those relationships are very much the cornerstone of how effective your leadership is. Well, let's jump into the principles. So how do we cultivate and build a team? Observation, first and foremost. Just like when you're in a coffee shop and you're doing a lot of people watching, it's amazing how much you can pick up just purely through observation. So this means watching people interact in your office. Take notes on positions, on people's responsibilities and their general demeanor. What are their positive attributes? What are their weaknesses? Who are people drawn to? Who are people clicky with? Who do they work well with? Who do they work not too well with? You've got to start to people watch, just like you're in a cafe. Don't daydream, don't get caught doing it. You can do it just do it through being observant, but through the process of your work and the interactions that you have with people. That's step one. Principle 2 is engage. And again, like a detective, continue to find out more bits of information about the people that you work with. Make contact with people. Introduce yourself. Like we spoke about last week. Build up that strong body language, that confidence to go up and speak to people, engage with them and talk on their terms. It's really going to help follow on. You should have already done a fair bit of that with your task from last week, but we've got to continue that. It's really, really important. Build a network and learn people's names and what they do. And again, their positive attributes and their weaknesses. So it's just like being a detective and profiling people. It's really in your best interests. Thirdly, our third principle, provide value. Because providing value is like the foundation to any relationship. The more value you can provide to that relationship, and the more people see the value that you've got, the stronger that relationship becomes, the stronger a foundation that you're laying. So support, encourage, but not only that, inspire, and do it by interacting frequently. Lay those strong foundations for the future by taking that genuine interest in someone else and finding out a little bit more about them. You'd be amazed at how many people in big offices never get to know anyone outside of their little circle or where they work. Venture out, because every one of those departments is codependent, whether or not that's an obvious link or not. So engage and understand everyone's situation. It's just like when you're building those skyscrapers, you've got to have a strong foundation that supports everything that comes on top. If you've got strong relationships with everyone across the board, when you do rise and that building rises up, just like you do in that leadership position, you've got all those strong relationships and that history with those people to leverage on and utilize as a leader. And fourthly, get social. So we're looking at it more from an outside of work's perspective. Now, that's not saying you need to have romantic rendezvous with everyone in your team. I don't recommend that at all. I recommend keeping it strictly professional and work focused in the workplace. Keep your personal life outside of it. But do things outside of work with your team. Go on a group lunch, a group dinner, or organise an activity where it's just your team. Perhaps they're partners as well, but just your team. Get to know them a little bit more outside of the workplace. What their motivations are, what their personal life looks like, what's inspiring them. Get a better understanding of them and build camaraderie outside of the office. Because it is quite different. That social and work personas can be quite different. So I want you to think of yours at this point in time. How do you differ from the workplace to outside of work? It's not to say you've got to spend every waking minute with these people, but once every month, once every quarter, build that sense of camaraderie and friendship as well, because there should be an undertone of that throughout all strong teams, and there is. So how do we build the team? Firstly, you're going to scout the office, make profiles with connections and people's positions, positive and negative attributes. Secondly, you want to meet and greet. Continue to add to that list and engage with as many people as you can, introducing yourself and showing genuine interest. Thirdly, engage daily and provide that value. Build those foundations for those future relationships. And lastly, organize those things outside of work. Be the catalyst for that if it's not already happening. Show some initiative and start to build that camaraderie. So how will it be if you have a good work team? How will that facilitate your leadership journey? Take a moment to think about why this is so important, but moreover, how that's going to be a benefit to you moving into the future as you become a future leader and assume a position higher than what you're at now. Remember, from what we've learned today, we observe the people around you, take note, be genuinely interested and absorb as much information as possible. Engage, go out of your way to start building your confidence, introducing yourself and building up those profiles of people. Provide that value. So when you're meeting those people, giving them some information, giving them some feedback, giving them some motivation, whatever it may be. Maybe it's some information about something in relation to they're working on that might benefit them. And then lastly, get social. So detach from that workplace environment and get a little bit social and get to know them just a touch outside of the workplace. A work team is integral as they will share in your journey. They're going to be cultivating, and cultivating a great team requires you to apply yourself and invest time and energy into it. So think of it as another responsibility that you've got in the workplace to create that strong team environment. In order to get the most out of your work team, you have to support them and you have to show that support's always there. And remember, these are the people that are going to be supporting you in years to come. If you want to be identified as a leader, your ability to create team unity and build a strong sense of team is going to be noted by management. So that's a really important element to remember and keep at the forefront of your mind. All right, team, we've got a really cool task to jump into now. So I'm going to see you in the next video. But in the interim, keep choosing awesome and inspiring as many people as you can in your workplace and wherever you go.